Andrew Moskos.
Oh, hello.
Hello. Welcome to my living room.
So happy to be here.
Yeah, right?
Twice in a week.
I know.
Yeah.
It's always great when you guys come into town. You guys meaning you and Saskia, your wife, co-owner of Boom Chicago.
And CEO.
And CEO. My goodness. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. I slept my way to the top.
I want to start first with your improv origin story and then cover the origin of Boom Chicago. But you're a Chicago kid, right?
Chicago kid who was there for the beginning of improv, and it was so exciting because it really blew our minds. When you say the beginning of improv. Yeah. By that, I mean the beginning of long-form improv at I.O.
Got it.
Yeah. So I grew up going to Second City all the time. We had improv sets and freeze tag and those great games. And I think I've been going to Second City since I was 12 years old.
What year was that? Not to date you, but...
I was born in 68, so 12 would put me at 80. Yeah.
Great.
And in the early days, we would have to go home after the show was over because it was a school night frequently. And then I remember the first time I could stay for the improv set, which I guess was at 11 o'clock. And I think I actually had pajamas on in the car and slept on the way home. Maybe it was earlier than 12. But
there's a feeling that I have a shorthand for that I call ice cream in pajamas.
Oh, yeah.
It's there were two times in my childhood where I remember being almost ready for bed, and I was the youngest of three and my brothers were much older.
Yeah.
And the family decided we're going to go get ice cream. Do you want, and the feeling of being almost ready for bed, but being allowed to go out for ice cream.
Special.
The best.
Yeah. The only thing is I can't think of where I would have changed into those pajamas
Right.
because I was not at Second City in pajamas.
Right.
So did I change in the car? I think the idea was that I would be so tired and I would sleep on the way home because it was a good half hour, 40 minutes from Second City to Evanston where we lived. And then I guess they would pick up the sleeping Andrew and just put me right in bed.
Dreaming of a location that could fit on this stage and an object that you use every day, sir.
Do you use that every day, sir?
A dildo. Do you have any standout memories of particular cast members at Second City from those golden years?
Dan Castaneda. He was a big memory from my childhood. And then Kind, what's his first name?
Richard
Kind. Yeah.
Amazing that you got to see him do Second City shows.
I also saw him at the Firehouse, which was a short-lived Evanston improv club. It was on Chicago Avenue, just south of Main Street for the Evanston nerds, and it was an old fire station, and there was a restaurant, and they had a room upstairs, and I saw Kind of do a show, and I remember very vividly he put his fist in his mouth in one scene. And
the whole thing?
The whole fist. And I was like, look, his fist fits in his mouth. And later I saw him in New York 20, 30 years later, and I mentioned that scene. He did not remember it, but he was tickled that I saw him in Evanston, and then I remembered him putting his fist in his mouth.
That's so great. Yeah. I thought you were going to say you saw him in New York 30 years later and he did the same bit. And it's wait a minute. That's just a party trick that you do in every scene?
It would be funny. I would go, oh, gosh, tripped on memory lane. And no, he laughed. It was great.
So I know this is digging back into the cobwebs of your attic memory, but as long form hit the scene, how did this come into your consciousness? Were you a teenager going to shows after high school, or this would have been Improv Olympic?
This would be Improv Olympic. So I had, 18 in college. That was later. So this was in college. And I had a friend, Paul Turner, who was he's a type that doesn't exist anymore. He was there's an un-college educated journalist, reporter kind of character where you didn't go to school, but you were scrappy and smart and read a lot. And he was one of these guys. He was from Cairo, Illinois, and he came to Chicago to be an actor. And it was just this archetype that I don't see as much of anymore. And he was in Improv Olympic and invited me to see his show, and it was great. That was my first long form show. Sharna had me on stage for The Dream, and I liked it. And she said, "You're good at this. You should do this. We teach classes here." I'm like, I'm probably the first person she's ever said that to.
Right.
I think I'm going to take her up on that.
Dear Mom and Dad, I'm not coming home. I know it's only 30 minutes away. However,
Oh, so that was nice. Then I started taking improv classes, and that was fun. And I had risen to to the middle of the improv scene in Chicago.
Risen to the middle is that's such a universal. I was in the same boat. It's like, here I am on rung number 3.
Right. I knew I was at rung number 3. I'm like, I'm not as funny as them, you know. But I enjoyed the art form. It was great. I got to take classes with Del. That was wonderful.
No kidding.
Yeah, I took my level 1 was Sharna. My level 2 was Del Close. And
any Del memories?
Well, we knew it was special even at the time that he was great and different and quirky and unusual. He said a great line, I'm sure he said to many people, but you know, the correct number of drinks before an improv show that you're in is 2. Not more, not less, 2. And I liked that, you know, anyone that said it's not 0, but hey, let's, you know, there is a 2 number that's too high, and that's 3.
Yeah, that's so funny. The not less is great. It's a 2-drink minimum for performers is a different time. That is a different time.
It really was.
Any memories from class of like weird exercises he had you do?
Yeah, he had one where he said, you are very literal and right-brained and mathematical. And he's very right about that.
He's wrong about the right brain part. Left brain is the descriptor of that. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm sure he said it correctly. And he said, I want you to be fairies and sprites and crazy characters under a rock in a forest. And that was a note that he gave me. And it was nice. It helped. It was good.
Yeah.
It was not my natural move.
Yeah.
And it was just a classic good note for a person to expand his potential.
Right.
Yeah.
Pick up a different color on your paintbrush and see what that looks like for a little while.
Exactly. Yeah.
I would like to see you play sprites and stuff. Yeah. You're often the guy who walks in and comments on what's going on.
Absolutely. Oh, that's a choice ripped from today's news.
That's a insert relevant reference.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, look, someone still reads The Economist. Yeah, that was my style.
And then you are a Northwestern guy, right?
Yes.
So you went to Northwestern. Did you do Meow Show?
No, I was not in Meow Show. I only was in the audience of Meow Show. I did the Evanston High School equivalent back in the day. It was called Yamo, which was really a great show. Evanston High School was a big school. We had 800 people in our graduating class. So it was like a mini college, and we had like a great music department, a great theater department, and so like whatever your niche was, you could kind of find it there because there was, 3,200 kids there. And we had a theater department, and they had a student-run, student-written, student acted show with a music component, actors.
Incredible.
Crew, which is nice, is for the crew kids are always kind of crew kids, the like people that could go either way in life, but maybe they find their calling in the theater kind of a thing. And I learned about punk music back from the Crew people, Ace of Spades. I can still kind of sing that song. And the beginning of rap music was happening. This is like I graduated in '86, so it was urban enough that we had subgroups. And being in Chicago, near Chicago, it was nice. So like there was a period where I was in rap music when most people are like, what's rap music? Well, it's kind of like singing, but it's more rhyming and sometimes shouting, and the lyrics are very important. A lot fast.
The fact that you call it rap music really shows your hand there.
Yeah, no, but that at the time it was really like
that shows like what a ground floor you entered on.
Really, it was really the beginning. I had my friend James McDonald who introduced me to rap music, but to rap. But imagine a genre, a time where there could be such a revolutionary genre that hadn't been invented yet.
I cannot believe that I feel like I won't get to live through that.
You won't,
barring like technological advancements, like electronic music. I guess was that was an evolution.
One. And Chicago house music was that's where it began, and that was exciting too. But now, there was an underground back then. You could describe things that people didn't know about. Now any new thing is, it's in the New York Times in a week,
So you've always had this kind of like passionate curiosity, like an insatiable appetite for anything that will light you up or inspire you, be it on the fringe and maybe the closer to the edge, the better. Yeah, because it's different.
And getting inspiration from everywhere. Right. That I've always enjoyed.
So I want to transition here to like, so at some point during all of this, your personal soup recipe is being informed by all these things. Yeah. Was there at some point during your journey through IO or through Yamo or any of this where you went, I'd like to be a comedian, or I'd like to turn improv into something? Or was that just kind of off the table? These were hobbies for you?
They were hobbies for me, to be honest. I never even considered, well, I don't, I thought I would have an office job. I was a sociology major, and I worked for a corporate nonprofit in Chicago that worked on economic development, housing, race relations, and education. And I was the education director there. And I learned a lot there. I learned more from my boss there than I think I did at Northwestern. But I didn't think of early childhood education in the middle of the night. And I was a manager of a movie theater at the end, the Fine Arts Theater, which was the grand downtown 2 balconies art theater with 4 theaters. And then, so I was a movie theater manager sort of for money in college. And then I had the sociology degree, which I liked things and people and observing things. And my father was a sociology professor at Northwestern.
Famously, so Charlie Moskos. He's the one who Clinton tapped for what do we do about gays in the military and branding, and he came up with...
He came up with Don't Ask, Don't Tell, which today is seen as a bad thing. But at the time, it was quite revolutionary because we had to have a step between gays are going to be ferreted out of the Army to full acceptance. And he said it was the perfect compromise because it pissed everybody off. And I thought that was a nice lesson that I learned from my father, is that sometimes you have that like unpure mid-step.
Right. So your dad was super liberal and super progressive, but it's like knowing that in order to get to the next step, you have to build a bridge that might feel like you're going backwards from where you want to go, but it's a bridge, and now it'll get you
backwards from today. Right. But from there, it was a step forwards because it was just, I mean, it's funny to think it, but I remember growing up where men didn't wear pink shirts. I mean, it sounds like something from the 50s, but it's from the 80s, and men didn't have earrings. I mean, and the Army and the military was the most conservative, force in the government. So it was progressive for its time, even though it does not feel that way today. But he was proud of it, and I think it helped pave the way to where we are today. Yeah,
and it's important to have those steps and forward progress, even if it's not what you want at the moment.
Right.
Okay, so you're interested in comedy. It's a side passion. Yeah. Take me to how now you arrive at starting one of the most successful comedy theaters in the world.
So sociology degree, movie theater manager, improv Olympic mid-level talent.
Okay.
I go to Amsterdam with my best friend, Pep. We've been best friends since we were 9 years old, went to Northwestern together.
I didn't know that you were friends. I thought you met in college.
No, 9 years old, best friends, third grade.
Yeah. I need to see pics.
Yeah. Oh, God.
I'm really going to need to see pics of that.
I'll be happy to show you. We were nerds before it was cool to be a nerd. Yeah. So we're in Amsterdam. It's 1992, and we have the best stoner idea ever. We're high in a coffee shop, and we go, why don't we quit our jobs and move here and start an improv comedy show? And Pep was a little suspicious, but I'm like, but hold on, I think this is actually a good idea. They speak great English here. There are 3 groups of people in Amsterdam, and I think they all would see an improv show. The Dutch people are super curious about foreign things. They're traders. They've been sailing the world. They're not scared of outside influence. They're not protective of Dutch as a language, unlike the French. So they are very English focused, and that they could see a show in English. Then there's international types that have moved to Amsterdam and worked there but born somewhere else. And then there are tourists. That's a huge number of tourists, of course, that go to Amsterdam. And we were thinking maybe London or maybe Amsterdam would be possible for this. And then we thought, no, London, there's just too much going on. Although they speak great English, that's a plus. But there's just too much going on there that we might just be eaten alive, and we thought we could be bigger fish in a smaller pond in Amsterdam.
I want to do a little more forensics on this, because I've heard this story for years, but like I realized, but I never knew, like, what's the origin of that idea? Like, had you before considered like, oh, I could start a comedy theater at some point in Evanston, or like so comedy theater just arrived in your high brain as an inspiration? Yes,
I thought that a second city, but in Amsterdam, for those three groups of people would be a winning business idea.
Yeah.
And I thought that it was new and fresh, and there was no improv there, and they were curious, and that it would all hopefully work, and that we could hustle it and make it work.
And there is something to the second city model that applies here, which is like the wide net, where like you have some humor for locals, like 2% of the jokes are like very local specific,
right?
But then a really wide net with like it's relevant topics that everybody's talking about. It's very tourist friendly, and it brings people in by like kind of teaching them things about the city, teaching them things about Chicago. And
when I went to Toronto to see their second city, I was pleased that I got some of the insider jokes about like the business mogul guy who owns a TV network, and he was a bit of a bad guy in the show. And I'm like, oh, I remember him. Or they made some references about the tram line that, you know, took you there. And I'm like, we rode that tram line. So like I was that insider in Toronto, and I wanted to give sort of the Dutch people that feeling in Amsterdam.
Yeah. And there's that feeling when you are the audience member who knows the stuff, you feel so smart and in the know.
Yeah.
And if you don't know the stuff, you feel appreciative because you're being brought into the know by stuff. Yeah. About stuff. Yeah. Okay. So you have this high idea. How do you, what's the next step? You guys sober the next day? You're like, this is still
great.
It's
still a good idea. Yeah. That was the test. If it was still a good idea or just something that was fun and high yesterday. But I'm like, no, this is a good idea. We can do this. We could live here. We could bring a crew of people from Chicago.
It's just it's such a big leap. It's so daunting because it's like, it's not just one unusual thing. It's like 6. You have to figure out like how to move there, how to get residency, how to convince other people where to live in a city that has like a housing shortage, like how to get a permit to have a business in a, it's just a lot.
Yeah, it was, I guess it was just the confidence that we've always had that it might work. But the first thing we did is we wrote the city. You know the story, but I'll tell it. And we said, here's our idea. So we wrote the tourism board because, they'll be pro big idea thinking. So we want to set up a show. It is a theater show. It's a comedy show. You sit around tables, which didn't really exist, so you can have drink service during the show.
Cabaret style.
The show is good enough to be reviewed in the newspapers, but fun enough that you go with your friends, and it doesn't feel like you're going to the dentist where it's good for you. It's just going to be a good, fun night out with your friends. What do you think of our idea? And they faxed us back very quickly. It was 1993, so the message to communications medium was fax. And it came out a very thoughtful answer from a woman who said, your idea will not work. That was a topic sentence. We thought, oh, wow, this is the tourism bureau. They're supposed to, everything's possible in Amsterdam. Come on by. Yeah, no. But she said, the Dutch people don't want to see a show in English. The tourists don't want to see a show at all. You need subsidy to do theater in the Netherlands. You will not get any subsidy, so think twice about your plans.
In other words, dat is niet mogelijk.
Dat is niet mogelijk. Oh, it was literally the perfect Dutch answer. That is not possible. It's sort of the mantra of the Netherlands. So that should have, I guess, caused us not to want to do it. But I read that, I'm like, no, she's wrong. This is going to work.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is something that just has the feel of like just a destiny path.
Maybe.
Because it's, you know what I mean? It's like against all reason and against being told no. It's like, nope, it's going to work. The conviction, there's like a light inside of it that compels it forward. I just thought it would work. Also, Amsterdam is small enough
that we could kind of get the word out. I thought, and we were gonna hustle it, and we did. We made a magazine, like a 16-page newspaper magazine that we handed out with a map on the back. I thought there was like a hole in the market for this kind of a show, and there's also the hole in the market for a good tourist magazine, because in the beginning we were tourists ourselves, and we marketed mostly to tourists. Those were our people. We understood them, and our experience in Amsterdam as a newcomer was a bit of that tourist experience. So we made this guide, which was funny and had a list of what to do. And we also introduced you to concepts that we would later be talking about in the show. So it was about like small beers with 2 fingers of foam. The air conditioning. There's no air conditioning back then. And
what is this plastic thing in your drink? It's used to stamp the juice out of your lemon.
Yeah,
but you can also hang on to it for later as self-defense.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A little the stomper, right, which no one had seen before. Also, like big glasses. Like we smuggled in pitchers too our first year. We were like, no, we should be selling beer in pitchers. And they didn't do that. They only,
really?
No. So the perfect Dutch tap system is, this, you pour it, 2 fingers of foam. It's 0.25 liters. So it's a small beer because you want it cold, and the next one comes out cold. And then I was arguing with the beer guy, and I'm like, but this is 1.8 liters. This is a pitcher of beer. See, don't you want to sell a pitcher of beer? No. The perfect thing are these little 1/4 liter glasses of beer. So
you're like, no. Let me introduce you to something called capitalism.
Yeah, it was so
where
funny.
You want to make more money, not make it better for the customers.
We introduced pitchers to the Netherlands.
Really?
Absolutely.
Wow.
We couldn't buy them there. We smuggled them in.
Smuggled pitchers.
Pitchers, plastic pitchers in our luggage, and table tents. We also introduced table tents, a plastic thing where you slide in a piece of paper that has specials or a menu or something on it. That was also a Boom Chicago.
That didn't exist
there
before.
Exist. Yeah.
What claims to fame?
Yeah.
Will you please get a tattoo of a table tent?
I have to apologize to Second City. One night after seeing a show there, we stole 10 table tents off their tables and put them in a backpack.
And those were the first
Boom Chicago table tents were stolen from Second City.
We can issue an official apology here.
Thank you for your support of live theater over the years.
I think you two are sister theaters now.
Yes,
I think
we are.
that bonds you for life.
Well, we did our Second City swap back later
That's
on
true.
too. We'll talk about that when the time comes.
Oh my God! So okay, what was the reaction when people started having pictures there? This was not an innovation from the UK, was it?
No,
like they were doing
UK
that
doesn't
there.
do pitchers either back then.
Okay.
They're pints. So the UK beer is a pint, a half liter of beer, and then the American sort of version is a pitcher, and you pour you fill up your glasses. But people loved it. I mean, the Americans in our audience loved it. The drunk Brits in our audience appreciated it. And it actually, I argue, is actually very Dutch gezellig. Yeah. Because, Dutch gezelligheid is this famous word. It means cozy. It's like a feeling you get when you're with friends and it's a warm environment. And if you have a pitcher and you're pouring your friends beers, just like a bartender is by definition gezellig,
right? You
are being hospitable. You're filling your friends' drinks. If you're at home and you go, you doing another beer? That hostmanship is gezellig, and pouring a beer in a bar for your friends is gezellig.
Yeah, and what's better than having your own personal bartender rather than waiting for the line at the bar or for your server to come back? Yeah,
exactly.
I would argue another Dutch thing about it is it's in the spirit of independence. It's like everyone can kind of choose their own amounts or their own pours. It's agency.
Yeah.
Dutch people are very big on no, you figure out for yourself what is your limit.
We're not going to tell you what to do.
That's right.
Right. That's Holland is not about that, right?
Right. So if there's someone at the table who's a little more modest and wants a smaller pour, or if there's someone who wants to drink a little more than his friends, he can serve himself. And it doesn't have to.
It's very Dutch in that way too.
Yeah.
I like that.
You did it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, how are table tents Dutch? You can have English on one side and Dutch on the other.
That's funny. That's how, of course, they are used today.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So how do you go about getting a work permit, finding a space? Was all of that stuff fairly easy and straightforward?
Well, it's funny. It was an easier time is the first step, which is it was more Wild West and things were crazy and we had cash and that helped. We were 100% under the table the first year. We did not have a license. We had no relationship with the tax authorities. We found a place that was a theater off the Leidse line. It was run by an old theater family, is the best way I would describe it, where they were singers and performers themselves. And the old man, Kuna Folter, was like a drunk, I guess would be the name. But
a pitcher guy.
Yeah, and he owned this place that was getting dusty, and the toilets were dripping, and the ceiling had holes, and it was just falling. It was at the end of its sort of life. And we walked in there and said, we want to rent your place during the week in the back. It was like a stage in the back. It had like 80 seats. And it was not used on any day except one night's on Saturday where they had a salsa night. And he had a son-in-law who he did not like. And that son-in-law ran the salsa night. And then we said, well, how about this? We will tear down our stage on Sunday so the salsa night can happen, put it back up on Sunday, and then do our week.
Wow.
And then we do 8 o'clock shows, and then salsa at 11:30, whatever would happen as normal. And he saw a little bit of us in him as a we were 23 years old. Mm-hmm. He was like, I was young. I was an entrepreneur. I come from a theater family. This sounds great. And it was a thumb in the eye of his stupid son-in-law. And
the perfect formula.
Formula, yeah.
And I would argue like bringing more people in and some fresh blood could be good advertising for like his
Absolutely.
spot.
Also, we sold tickets. They sold drinks.
Right.
They were like a late night bar. They were like a 10 p.m. To 4 a.m. bar. And we were coming in early and giving them, So they kept the bar. We kept the box office was the deal.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And this, I mean, great deal. Yeah. It's sort of like the trivia night model too. It's like if the bar is laying fallow, you might as well have an event that brings people in to drink.
Exactly.
Was this the space that later became Sugar Factory?
No, this is before that one. This is one, you might have never seen
I don't
it.
know.
Yeah. It is on the, do you remember Jimmy Woo?
Yeah.
It was across from Jimmy Woo.
Okay, yeah.
On the Court de Leidsevaarstraat. And today it's luxury apartments, of course. But back then it was the final last breaths of that dilapidated
theater. You guys
theater.
were on the ground floor?
Ground floor, yeah.
Okay, so next to Reinders or okay, got it.
Exactly.
Okay. How do the shows start going? And talk to me also about the formula here. Were the shows always a blend of short form improv and sketches?
Yes.
Okay.
The Second City, well, no, it wasn't the Second City model, actually. It's what we thought the Second City model should be. Which was 50% improv and 50% sketches. So we had scenes from the tourist point of view about Amsterdam in the first year. One was set at the Heineken Brewery, which was a standard stop. One was a guy got too high in a coffee shop and has this like voiceover freak out, which was funny.
He can't figure out the money.
Yeah. And then one coin was 2.5, and he kind of was curious because we actually had a 2.5 guilder coin back then.
R.I.P. the Gilder.
R.I.P. the Gilder.
The beautiful Gilder. So the reason you wanted to do 50% improv is like Second City was all sketch, and then they had that little like pad set at the end and freeze tag. Yeah. But that seems like in your core memories, it's like that was the stuff.
That was the stuff.
Yeah.
Audience suggestions, improvised singing. We had a blues band, and we sang the something blues. Suggestion from the audience, and I mean we played some party quirks the first year, and shift left, shift right. Was that first year? I can't quite remember.
Yeah.
No. So it was those kinds of games, and a lot of people. Whose Line Is It Anyway was on English TV.
That's what I was going to ask.
Yeah.
If that's where you pulled your game ideas from.
I don't think so. I think I pulled them from the Chicago show. I think as Comedy Sports, I would credit for our short form games. Because we, everything was less international. So although Whose Line Is It Anyway was on Dutch TV, we didn't watch it. So that was not our influence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You convince people to come over. Does it go well the first year? Well enough that you're not embarrassed that you told your friends?
It did go well. We rented a one house altogether, which had 5 floors, which sounds fantastic, but it was actually a very narrow Dutch house where it was 5 rooms stacked on top of each other.
It was basically 5 bunk beds high.
Almost.
Yeah.
The interesting thing about that house was we were 1 floor, even though we had 5 floors, we were 1 floor short. So Ken Schafel, our co-founder, built a bunk bed in the kitchen, which we then renamed the Slopkoken, the sleeping kitchen. And they described it as you had to fall asleep in between when the refrigerator motor went off, because it'd be very loud when the refrigerator engine came on. But if you could fall asleep between that cycle, then you could get a good night's sleep in the kitchen. 6 people, one house.
Oh, to be 23.
Yeah,
right.
This
is the stuff you got in right in the window when you can do that.
Exactly.
Stuff.
People were excited. That was the good living. Wow, I'm 23 in Amsterdam. No one was like, this is unacceptable.
Right. It was like, can you believe it? We don't have to sleep on floors.
Yeah.
We're not sleeping in the train station.
It was great.
Yeah, amazing. Audience response, pretty good.
Yeah, good. We made this Boom magazine, which had information about Amsterdam, handed out thousands of these things, and we hustled. It was like timeshare on the street with people. What are you doing tonight? What are you doing tonight? No. Yeah, great. Do that first. Go to the hotel, change, and then you're coming out. 8:00, Boom Chicago. And we were selling tickets on the street too. And people gave us money, and it was just our confidence. You would literally
like exchange cash for tickets in the streets. Wow.
And soon we realized we didn't even need tickets. I just wrote it out on the back of a magazine. I wrote 36 guilders, 2 people, paid in full, today's date, and then I signed it. And every now and then, and I would do it so confidently, and every now and then someone would look and kind of go like, I gave this guy money.
Right.
I don't even have a ticket. And I'd go like, do you think that we printed up this magazine, came all the way out here, rented a theater so that we could take your 36 guilders?
Right.
And they would go like, no, I don't think that. And then we would see them at the show.
As you're saying that, it occurs to me that a ticket is just as absurd. A ticket is the same sort of empty promise. Like you have a piece of paper, you go to an address, it's closed. What do you do?
No, but the ratio of short and wide, that says ticket.
That's official. That's law abiding.
Yeah. But it was just like, obviously we come here, we hand these things out. I mean, it wouldn't work, and then they believed it.
Were there any like big hard lessons in those first couple of summers that you were there of like, this kind of humor doesn't play in the Netherlands, or, we need to do this kind of game, but not that kind of game? Anything like that kind of rose to the surface?
Not yet, because the beginning it was really like an imported hybrid Chicago comedy show of Comedy Sports meets Second City. Mm-hmm. And it all kind of, the improv worked, the scenes worked. The audience wasn't so Dutch then, and those that were there were kind of tickled because it's just the idea of a table service, of pitchers, of table tens.
Right.
And then this show was impressive, and we had a very snooty critic come from the snooty paper, the Volkskrant, Hein Janssen, and he came the first year, and he gave us a great review. And as we told those stories, every Dutch person was like, Hein Janssen gave you a great review. But again, it was almost so counter-expected that like if we were doing anything more serious, he could have been snide. But because it was so backdoor coming in, that he, in that sort of Dutch contrarian way, really loved it.
Yeah, interesting. It suits Amsterdam.
Yeah,
it is a little contrarian, especially back then. Like now, it's more mainstream, which I want to talk about, like the journey that you guys have had. Because now, how many years? It's been almost 35.
33 years, and. Well, so at some point, I mean, we moved through a couple theaters, and
I don't want to skip ahead too hard.
Yeah.
I want to get to the evolution, but I want to can we do timeline wise? Yeah, because you've had sort of like different phases. Those first couple years, it was only in the summers, right?
Yes, the first couple years only in the summer, and even that first year, it went so well that we were selling out our 80 seats by the end. So much so that we extended the season 2 years, and 2 of our actors had to go back, and we got 2 new actors to come out for this 2-week season, and then. Because it kind of had grown at the right place, that we were getting our tours to the magazine. Dutch people were starting to discover it, those that were kind of had their ear to the ground. And then we said, no, we're coming back next summer.
Yeah.
For year 2.
And how many years was it just in the summer? And then what was the transition to full time?
It took, let's see, 93 was at this back of the salsa bar. 94, 5, and 6 was across from the sugar factory on the line buns, across from in the sugar factory, across from the Melkweg, and that was nice because we had it was bigger. It was like almost 200 seats there. We built a balcony in the theater.
You built your own?
Yes. Ken Schafel built a balcony in that theater.
How the hell does one figure out how to build
steel? Yeah, he welded it. Yeah, it was crazy.
Ken Schafel,
or am I confusing that? The balcony, boy.
Or did Superman do it?
It was No, it was a reporter. He had glasses.
Yeah.
But Ken could build things and weld things. It was kind of, it helped, it was a lot of stuff just happened in the right order. Also was nice is that we grew in the right order, that the money from the first year could pay for the second year. And we grew at just the right level that we could control it ourselves. So we never had investors or fought with people like that. And that's the biggest luxury of all, is that after all these years, it's still ours, and it's still Pep Sauce and I who run it.
Yeah. Why is, for those who are listeners who are starting out on endeavors that are similar to this, how do they keep what do you recommend just staying small enough at first that you're not like outgrowing yourself? Do you think that that's like the priority should be maintain creative control, maintain ownership? If
you can, it's the best. Of course, you never have to negotiate with, the assholes. You're the assholes. But it's hard because at Boom Chicago, by being innovators in Amsterdam, we had the flow of tourists that was our initial bread and butter. And if you're in a small town or a medium town in America, you don't have that luxury of those transient people who are looking for something fun to do tonight. Because we did 5 days a week from year one, Wednesday through Sunday.
Wow.
So that is hard to replicate, unfortunately. So that the economics were possible with the show only model. Like unlike most theaters, we only developed our academy 5 years ago. For the first 25 years or so, we only had theaters. We only had shows. Everything was tickets. So that's unusual that you don't have the revenue source of an academy. But we weren't a place in the beginning. We were show first. The idea was you get a babysitter, park your car, you see the show, and that we were going to give you a show that you were going to like. We back then we weren't thinking that you were the future cast members or that you would have a love of improv yourself. It was still just like, what is this thing, improv? It wasn't like Chicago today, and it was more like Chicago in 1993 at the beginning of I.O.
Well, yeah, I feel like Second City was always show first.
Yes.
Maybe part of that is the clientele, part of that is the material. It's a little more common denominator.
Yeah.
And I.O. was a little bit more speaking to the people who will become improv students.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's literally it.
Yeah.
And also Chicago, again, like Amsterdam, has tourists, it has visitors, and it has people that come to town, and you want to then bring them somewhere, and it's famous and it's got a great pedigree, Second City, of course. So at some point it becomes an institution, which is nice too, but show first and audience first, meaning muggles first, as opposed to improvisers, was key to our vision, and that served us well.
Don't be improv snobs. You want to cast a wide net so that everyone's included, and nobody is like my mom who comes to a show and goes, I don't know what that was.
Yeah.
It's like, don't leave your audience out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the audience was luckily, we always got to do the shows that our audiences liked. We never dumbed it down. We just found joy in the Second City model of writing scenes and making improv games that connected with people and worked every night. If you're at an improv first theater, you can have an off night and the audience forgives you because you're doing a height rope without a net. So sometimes you fall. Our vision was always that it has to be great every night because they're not coming back tomorrow, maybe.
Right.
So, and they're not going to go like, good move. I mean, it wasn't funny, but really clever.
Yeah. And they're not as impressed if you fall. They're impressed with the tightrope.
Right.
So find a tightrope height and trick that works for you that you can pull off.
Every night.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really what we do.
What are... in the scope of now this Boom Chicago career, what are the takeaways now of running order tricks or things that help that show success, or things, humor wise, or,
you have to explain something before you make fun of it. So if there's something happening in Dutch news or even international news, you can't just make a joke about it, even though there will be a core of your audience that will understand it. You have to sort of go, either in a news segment or in the introduction to the scene. Many young people used to be able to find a house. And we're doing a new show about the difficulty of finding apartments in Amsterdam, which is something that is global and connects with people. It's a good Boom Chicago topic because you go like, oh, that applies. It's kind of interesting, and everyone kind of gets it, and a lot of people have a personal experience with it. But you'd have to sort of introduce. If there's a movie too, you sort of almost have to summarize it first to remind you, or you could play the video that you're making fun of later with a joke in the news segment, and then later when you do your scene about it, you've given them the information.
Yeah. It's similar, even like the microcosm of that is like Weekend Update jokes. One sentence on SNL.
Yeah.
One sentence sets up the reality that happened this week.
Right.
The headline.
Right.
And then the second sentence is the punchline about it.
Right. It's like, almost, or a stand-up comedian and goes like, hey, have everyone noticed now we've got this premium economy on the airplanes,
Right.
And then they go, it's not business class, it's not coach, right. It's premium economy. And then they tell their joke about premium economy.
Yeah.
But, some people go, yeah, I know what premium economy is, but a Dutch person also might need to be reminded of this American news that they vaguely know, or they might not know the word that we're using to describe it. So you can do the scenes you want. We don't dumb them down, but you do have to explain it first. Pep and Greg, who do political shows at Boom Chicago, Pep had a great scene. He said, I want to do a scene about gerrymandering into a Dutch audience. And we were all skeptical. We're like, okay, good luck. It sounds, what a challenge. That tightrope is high up there.
Uh-huh.
And he made a scene which was great. And he kind of had, he talked about like who's going to pick a movie, and a group of men and a group of women, and we would vote, and then he would move the people around, and if you put all the women in one group, then you would turn them into one electoral vote, and then
and he did that physically in the audience.
He did that physically. He brought people on stage, moved it there, and did the math. So first he was like, North Carolina, this is how many electoral votes it should have. So we kind of introduced that because we were doing shows about American elections for a Dutch audience, and on one hand that's exciting that a Dutch audience would pay to see a show, hundreds, for about an American election. I sometimes joke that this show wouldn't work in America, that there weren't enough people followed. We did shows about the primaries even.
Yeah.
But the idea about setting it up, introducing the concept, and then doing the joke about it, it worked especially there. But that would be my advice to folks is you don't have to dumb down the comedy, but you do have to explain it to an audience that might not understand it.
Bring up the people, don't bring down the comedy.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And as an audience member, I always appreciate leaving a show having learned something.
Absolutely.
Even if it's just a little factoid. Like from a Pep and Greg show, I learned that the word Yankees, typically American, like slang for Americans, started out as slang about Dutch people.
Yes.
Jan Kees, the New York immigrants.
In New York, in New Amsterdam, in old New York, that was an insult for Dutch people.
Yeah.
Oh, fucking Jan Kees. So that's funny. So the show was called Yankee Go Home as a bit of an insult to Americans, and then we explained it. No, it comes from Jan Kees.
Yeah.
Jan Kees. So when you say Yankees go home, we are home. And it was like the conclusion of the show, and everyone cheers because it's like, some people knew it, not everyone. And certainly that idea about when you tell Yankees to go home, we are Yankees in Amsterdam.
Yeah.
So those sorts of moments are just, they give me goosebumps.
Yeah. Goofbumps should be what it's called. Comedy goosebumps are goofbumps. Yeah. For part 2 of this episode, go to yesalso.supercast.com. If you like this podcast and you want double the content, head over to yesalso.supercast.com and subscribe. You can also help us out for free by subscribing to us on YouTube and talking us up to your improv communities. If you have a question that you'd like us to answer in one of our Q&A episodes, or a topic that you think would make a great bonus episode, put it in a 5-star review. If you're a theater who would like to host us for a live recording and improv show, let us know at yesalsopod@gmail.com. A very special thanks to our producer, Ryan Rosenberg, audio and video editor, Brian Kessler, and Britt Faye, who does our marketing. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next week. No, we won't, Susie. That's not how podcasts work. They won't even see us. They will listen to us, so it's actually the opposite of both things you said. Thanks for listening, and you will listen to us next week. Maybe. We don't know.